It's early morning on March 26, 2025, in Miami Beach, Florida. The sun rises slowly, lighting up the sky. Inside a condominium by the shore, Melissa Carter wakes up and smiles at her 5-year-old daughter, Sophie, sleeping beside her. Sophie's small face looks calm, her hair messy on the pillow. It's day 3 of their vacation, and Melissa hopes for a happy day. Soon, Sophie opens her eyes. "Mommy, are you awake?" she asks softly, rubbing her face. Melissa strokes her hair and says, "Good morning, sweetie. We'll have fun at the beach." Then the phone rings. It's Carol, Melissa's mom. "Melissa, what's your plan today?" Carol asks sharply. "Mom, it's only 7 o'clock. We'll eat breakfast and meet you at the beach by 10 o'clock, Melissa replies. Carol sighs. "You're so lazy with Sophie." Melissa feels annoyed but stays quiet. After the call, Sophie whispers, "I don't think Grandma likes me." Melissa hugs her and says, "She's just strict, honey. I'm here with you." 5 years ago, Melissa's life turned upside down. At 28, she got pregnant with Sophie by accident. The father left her and she was alone. Her mom, Carol, and sister, Vanessa, didn't want her to keep the baby. "It's shameful," Carol said. Vanessa added, "You can't handle it." But Melissa chose to raise Sophie anyway. She worked hard at her advertising job and became a marketing director. She loves Sophie and keeps her safe, even if Carol and Vanessa call her overprotective. Growing up, Carol was tough on Melissa, always demanding more. But with Vanessa she was soft. Now they both judge Melissa's parenting. It's hard, but Melissa stays strong for Sophie no matter what they say. It's 9:45 a.m. when Melissa and Sophie reach the beach. The sun shines bright, and the sand feels warm under their feet. They're a little early for the 10 o'clock meetup. Melissa carries a bag with snacks and towels, while Sophie holds her hand, looking around shyly. Carol, Vanessa, her husband Mike, and their kids Ethan and Olivia are already there. They sit under a big umbrella. Ethan is 10 and Olivia is 8, both louder and bolder than Sophie. Carol looks at her watch and says, "Finally, you're here. We've been waiting." Melissa forces a smile. "Mom, it's only 9:45. We said 10 o'clock. Vanessa brushes her hair back and adds, "You're always late, Melissa." The air feels heavy with tension. Carol frowns at Melissa and says, "You're too soft with Sophie. Look at her, so shy." Vanessa nods. "My kids don't need me hovering." Sophie tugs Melissa's hand, whispering, "Can I play with Ethan and Olivia?" She wants to join them, but her eyes flicker to the waves. She's 5 and doesn't swim well, so she's nervous. Melissa kneels down and says, "Sure, sweetie. But stay close." She pulls out a pink arm float from the bag and slips it onto Sophie's little arm. "If you go near the water, tell Grandma or Aunt Vanessa, okay? I'll be right here." Sophie nods, still unsure, and runs off to her cousins. They start digging in the sand. Melissa watches them, but then her phone buzzes. It's her boss. "Melissa, we need you for this project." "It's urgent," he says. She hesitates. It's a big client and she can't say no. She looks at Carol and Vanessa. "I have to take this call. Please watch Sophie. Don't let her near the water alone, she can't swim well." Carol waves her hand. "Go, we've got her." Vanessa smirks. "She'll be fine." Melissa feels uneasy but walks toward the hotel lobby, phone to her ear, glancing back at Sophie one last time. Melissa is still on her call when trouble starts at the beach. Carol and Vanessa see their chance. They've always thought Melissa is too careful with Sophie. "She needs to learn independence," Carol whispers to Vanessa. Vanessa nods. "Let's show her she's fine on her own." Sophie, 5 years old and shy, stands near the water, holding her pink arm float. She looks back at them unsure. "Grandma, can I go in the water?" she asks in a small voice. Carol smiles. "Yes, Sophie. You're a big girl now. Go play." Sophie hesitates. "But Mommy said to tell you first." Vanessa laughs. "Your mom worries too much. Stay in the shallow part. You'll be okay." Sophie trusts them and steps into the water. At first, Sophie stays where her feet touch the sand. The waves are gentle and she giggles as they splash her legs. She holds her float tight. But then the tide gets stronger. It pulls her little body out, away from the shore. "Grandma," she calls, her voice shaky. She kicks her legs, but the water is too deep now. "Help!" she cries louder, fear in her eyes. Carol and Vanessa don't hear her. They're sitting under the umbrella, staring at their phones. Carol scrolls through pictures and Vanessa texts a friend. They don't look up. Nearby, Ethan and Olivia, Vanessa's kids, get tired of the water. They run back to the sand to build a castle, leaving Sophie alone. Her cries get quieter as the waves carry her farther. "Help me," she shouts, but the wind swallows her voice. Minutes pass. Melissa finishes her call and hurries back to the beach. Her heart beats fast as she looks for Sophie. She sees Carol and Vanessa under the umbrella, but no Sophie. "Where's Sophie?" she asks, her voice tight. Carol shrugs. "She's playing somewhere." Vanessa looks up from her phone. "She's fine, Melissa. Relax." Melissa's eyes scan the sand. She sees Ethan and Olivia, but not her daughter. "Did she go in the water?" she demands. Vanessa sighs. "Yes, for a little bit. She's probably with other kids." Melissa's stomach drops. She runs to the water's edge, looking out. Then she sees it, a tiny pink float bobbing far out in the waves. Next to it, a small head struggles to stay up. "Sophie!" Melissa screams, her voice breaking. Carol and Vanessa stand up, confused. "What's wrong?" Carol asks. Melissa doesn't answer. She points at the water, tears in her eyes. "She's out there." Her scream echoes across the beach and panic takes over. Melissa's scream brings help fast. A lifeguard runs over, sees Sophie's pink float far out in the waves and dives into the water. A surfer nearby grabs his board and paddles out too. Melissa stands on the shore, her hands shaking, tears running down her face. "Please save her," she whispers. Carol and Vanessa finally walk to the water's edge, looking worried now. The lifeguard reaches Sophie first. She's not moving, her small body limp in the waves. He pulls her onto the surfer's board and they rush back to the beach. "She's unconscious," the lifeguard shouts. He lays Sophie on the sand and starts CPR, pressing her chest hard. Melissa drops to her knees beside her daughter, crying, "Sophie, wake up." After a few tense moments, Sophie coughs and spits out water. She's alive, but her breathing is weak. An ambulance arrives quickly, and paramedics take her to the hospital. Melissa follows, holding Sophie's cold hand. At the hospital, Melissa sits in a quiet waiting room, her heart pounding. Doctors work on Sophie while Melissa stares at the floor, scared. Carol and Vanessa sit nearby, silent at first. Finally, a doctor comes out. "Miss Carter," he says softly, "Sophie's alive. We got her breathing again, but she swallowed a lot of water. Her lungs are hurt, and her brain might not have gotten enough oxygen for a bit. She's stable now, on a ventilator to help her breathe. We'll watch her closely." Melissa nods, tears in her eyes. "Can I see her?" she asks. "Soon," the doctor says, patting her shoulder. Melissa feels relief but still so much fear. Then the arguing starts. Carol breaks the silence. "It was an accident, Melissa. It happens to kids sometimes." Vanessa adds, "We were watching her. We only looked away for a second." Melissa's head snaps up, her face red with anger. "A second? She almost died. You knew she can't swim and you let her go in alone." Carol crosses her arms. "You're too protective. That's why she's weak. Kids need to learn on their own." Vanessa nods. "We were trying to help her be strong." Melissa stands up, her voice loud and shaking. "Help her? You ignored her. She was screaming for you and you were staring at your stupid phones." Carol rolls her eyes. "Don't be dramatic. She's fine now." Melissa steps closer, fists clenched. "Fine? She's on a machine to breathe because of you. I trusted you and you didn't care." Vanessa looks away but Carol snaps back. "You left her with us to take your work call. That's on you." Melissa's anger boils over. "I told you to watch her. You failed her, not me." The room goes quiet, heavy with blame and guilt. After Sophie's rescue, people start asking questions. A social worker named Lisa comes to the hospital. She's kind but serious, wanting to know what happened. She talks to Melissa first, then Carol and Vanessa separately. When Sophie wakes up, still weak and on the ventilator, Lisa sits by her bed. "Hi, Sophie," she says gently. "Can you tell me about the beach?" Sophie's voice is small and scratchy. "Grandma said I could go in the water. I got scared when the waves pulled me. I called for help, but Grandma and Aunt Vanessa were looking at their phones." Melissa listens, her heart breaking. Lisa writes everything down, nodding. Later, police show up. They've got videos from people at the beach. One clip shows Carol and Vanessa under the umbrella, eyes glued to their screens, while Sophie's faint cries echo in the background. "We heard her calling," a tourist tells the officers. "They didn't even look up." The police tell Melissa, "We're looking into this. It might be neglect." The law moves fast. Carol gets charged with child neglect. In court, she says it was an accident, but the judge doesn't agree. She gets a suspended sentence. No jail if she behaves, plus 200 hours of community service. She has to help at a child safety program too. Vanessa faces bigger trouble. Child Protective Services, CPS, visits her home to check on Ethan and Olivia. Witnesses say she's not careful with them either. Her job at an insurance company puts her on leave, and her husband, Mike, is furious. "You messed up, Vanessa," he says. "Now our kids might get taken." He files for divorce and fights for custody, blaming her for everything. Vanessa cries, but it's too late. The story spreads like wildfire. A video of the incident goes viral online, titled, "Grandmother Engrossed in Smartphone Endangered Granddaughter." Millions watch it and people get angry. News stations talk about it nonstop. Melissa gets a call from Laura at the Miami Herald. "Can we hear your side?" Laura asks. Melissa agrees. She meets Laura and tells her everything: how Carol and Vanessa ignored Sophie, how they always judged her parenting. "They said I'm too protective," Melissa says, "but they let her drown." The article comes out and it's big. It shows the videos, Sophie's words, and Melissa's pain. People send Melissa flowers and letters supporting her. Carol and Vanessa's social media fills with hate. Carol loses her garden club friends, and Vanessa's life falls apart. The police keep digging and Melissa helps them, determined to make sure her family faces the truth. A year has passed since that terrible day on Miami Beach. It's March 2026 now, and Sophie is 6 years old. She's not the same little girl she was. The ocean scared her so much after nearly drowning that she wouldn't even take a bath at first. She had nightmares, waking up crying about waves pulling her away. Melissa took her to therapy twice a week to help with her water phobia and PTSD. It was slow, but Sophie got better bit by bit. Today, on a quiet beach a little away from Miami, Sophie stands in shallow water with a swimming instructor. She wears a blue rash guard over her swimsuit, her pink float long gone. "Kick your legs, Sophie," the instructor says kindly. She does, her face serious but brave. Melissa watches from the sand, her heart swelling. "Mom, look. I'm swimming." Sophie calls, a big smile breaking through. Melissa claps and yells back, "You're so strong, sweetie." It's a small win, but it feels huge after everything. Melissa has changed too. The pain from that day didn't break her, it made her stronger. She started a group called Parents Protecting Children's Safety. It's for moms and dads like her who want to keep kids safe and talk about tough family problems. They meet every month, sharing stories and ideas. Melissa also writes a column for a local newspaper about child safety. She tells people how to watch kids closely and why it matters. Turning her hurt into something good helps her heal. She still thinks about Sophie's blue lips and pale face on the beach, but now she's building a better future for them both. Her family, though, is broken. Carol and Vanessa faced the law and lost a lot. Carol got a suspended sentence and had to do 200 hours of community service at a child safety center. She acts sorry there, but Melissa knows better. Carol texts friends saying, "Melissa dragged me to court even though we're family." She still blames Melissa, not herself. Vanessa's life fell apart too. CPS checked on Ethan and Olivia, and Mike divorced her. He's fighting for custody, saying she's not a good mom. One night, Vanessa calls Melissa crying. "Help me," she begs. "Mike wants to take my kids. You know how scary that is, right?" Melissa's voice is quiet but firm. "I do. That's why I can't forgive you. You and Mom hurt Sophie. Family doesn't mean you can do that." Vanessa goes silent and Melissa hangs up. She loves them deep down, but Sophie comes first. The sun starts setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Melissa sits on the sand, watching Sophie finish her lesson. The instructor waves and Sophie runs over, wet and giggling. "Mom, can we come back tomorrow?" she asks, her eyes bright. "Of course," Melissa says, pulling her into a hug. "You're so brave." They pack up their things: towels, a water bottle, Sophie's little sandals. Melissa looks out at the ocean. Far away she can see where it all happened last year. It still stings, but she breathes deep and lets it go. They're moving forward now. Somewhere else in the city, Carol sweeps floors at the safety center. She tells people she's changed, but her heart hasn't. She's mad at Melissa, not sorry for Sophie. Vanessa sits in a parenting class, nodding at the teacher, but inside she feels like a victim. She doesn't see the pain she caused. They both carry on, stuck in their own stories, while Melissa and Sophie build something new. As the sky darkens, Melissa's phone buzzes with a reminder: support group meeting. She smiles. Tomorrow she'll write her next column too. Sophie grabs her hand and they walk off the beach together. The waves crash softly behind them, but Sophie doesn't flinch. She's healing, and so is Melissa. They've left the past where it belongs, far out in the water, fading with the sunset. For them, today is about hope, strength, and each other.